For the first time, India's ally, Bangladesh, has bought 2 submarines from Beijing, paying $200 million, more than $200 million actually. This is being seen as China's steady expansion into South Asia, a region India considers its area of influence. That too on a day when India and China have begun their military exercise in Pune. Have a look at this report.
China's strategic shadow over the subcontinent darkened over the last 2 days with the supply of 2 diesel-electric submarines to Bangladesh. The subs are second-hand and will be delivered next year.
It's the first time the Bangladesh Navy is going to have 2 submarines, so it is an integral part of a Navy that Navy must have underwater capability. So it's just the beginning, and definitely introduction of the submarine will enhance the capacity of Bangladesh Navy, which will in turn help our government to coordinate in any peaceful activities within this area.
The concern in Delhi is about China's continuing effort to strategically encircle India. Pakistan is China's close ally. China already has naval facilities in Sri Lanka and supplies weapons to the Lankan military. Bangladesh could be the third link in this chain. Any deal to buy submarines also means training of personnel, setting up of infrastructure, repair and maintenance facilities. It means Chinese military and naval personnel could be stationed in Bangladesh. Given China's already considerable inroads into India's strategic periphery, this will complicate India's security concerns. Bureau Report, WION.
Let's go across to Saad Ahmadiyya, Bureau Chief from Bangladesh. He's joining us from Dhaka on Skype. Saad, thanks very much for joining us. I'd like to ask you, Bangladesh, of course, is aware of tensions it can cause with the neighbor India. In that sense, is there a strategy Bangladesh has in place on how to calm down India's fears and how to deal with India's concerns?
Well, Achal, I've spoken to a number of security analysts to identify and understand what this implies when you have China providing this kind of support to Bangladesh through submarines. And it's not just the submarines that China has provided Bangladesh. It has signed very recently some landmark agreements about 27 projects worth $24 billion and then another additional $14 billion in joint agreements for business ventures. So that is said to be one of the largest bilateral relations that China and Bangladesh have fostered in many years. Now,
we seem to have a bad connection there with Saad. We'll try and fix that. For the moment, let's go to Jaidev Ranade, former a security officer and continues to be a security expert. Mr. Ranade, always a pleasure, sir. Before we get connected again to my colleague Saad, I'd like to start by asking you, how should India be looking at this decision by Bangladesh?
Well, it's obviously something that I think our government will look at fairly closely, because submarines are weapons of war. They are stealthy killers. They're not something which is used for anti-piracy operations or for patrolling the coast. They are more deadly weapons, and I think our government will look at that carefully. Secondly, the amount of money that China has promised or committed to Bangladesh is a huge amount, and 2 things flow from it. One is after China's Conference on Peripheral Diplomacy in October 2013, they designated Bangladesh as a friend of theirs and expect them to come on board on the One Belt, One Road. These investments are meant to sweeten the pill, as it were, and get Bangladesh on board. But the problem Bangladesh will have is similar to what Pakistan is already facing, which is huge interest repayments burden coming on the Bangladesh government. Whether Bangladesh can afford it is something that they will have to see. But I think as far as we are concerned, with the present government in Bangladesh, things are not alarming. But I'm sure the recent deal has prompted talks between the concerned authorities in both our governments.
Right, so you're saying it's not alarming, but it certainly is a cause of concern. Submarines are an instrument that is used, a weapon that's used in war times. I'd like to ask you, in such a situation, should India then be increasing its play when it comes to South China Sea? And I'll actually like to add, if India can do more in South China Sea than it already is doing.
Well, in the South China Sea, really speaking, we don't have any claims. But what we are interested in securing is the freedom of navigation, air and sea, and the neutrality of the sea lanes and air lanes, commercial space, airspace. So that is something that we are intent on. As far as trying to maintain a balance is concerned, well, we'll have to wait and see what other countries of the region do. But as you're aware, when Prime Minister Modi went to Japan recently, there has been a lot of talk about cooperation, etc. And I would expect to see India-Japan cooperation increasing in the maritime domain, which includes the South China Sea and Indian Ocean.
Sir, I'd also like to ask you, sometimes perhaps here in South Asia we're talking a bit too much from the Indian point of view, but even India is not putting all its eggs in one basket, that being of Russia. India has also expanded. India's defense cooperation now with the United States is increasing by the day. In that situation, should India be so concerned when Bangladesh is buying 2 submarines from China?
Well, submarines change the naval balance in the region. After all, the Bay of Bengal is not very large, and I don't see any enemies there for Bangladesh unless Myanmar is the threat. So, you know, what is the rationale for submarines? I could understand fast patrol craft, etc. But submarines is something one puts a question mark on. As long as the government there is friendly, I don't think India has a problem. But let me also mention that by supplying them with the submarines, the Chinese are also trying to see whether their submarines would be able at some future point to dock at Bangladeshi ports. Just as in May this year, we had a Chinese nuclear submarine dock in at Karachi. So these are the things that would be of serious concern to us in India.
And before that, in Colombo, something that Indian government did not forget for a long time, but finally the government in Sri Lanka changed, and now there, all is well. Thanks very much, Mr. Ranade, for joining us. Let's get a quick word from Saad before we end this discussion. Saad, if you can hear me, I'd like to go back to the question I asked you earlier. Bangladesh's government understands well that this is going to irk New Delhi. Do they have a strategy in place to calm down those concerns?
See, Bangladesh and India have been having a very good relationship, particularly under the present government in Bangladesh. So having 2 submarines, as security analysts point out, is that it's balancing its own structure in terms of the defense mechanism that they have. And Navy, for that matter, did not have any submarines until recently. So underwater defense mechanisms they did not have. So that is what the focus is for the defense right now. And as you have also noticed, the Indian defense minister is also coming, visiting Bangladesh later this month. So that is what is perceived to foster and upgrade the bilateral defense cooperation between the 2 countries, and that should not spark much of a concern for India or Bangladesh at this time, particularly when the 2 countries have a very good relationship going on in terms of trade, development, and everything else.
Thanks very much, Saad, for joining us. And perhaps because it is at a time, this decision of Bangladesh has come at a time when the 2 countries are enjoying a very good relationship.